I want you to just imagine a starting line for a second. Could be, a new business, a fitness goal, anything. The clock is ticking, the race is technically started, but you're still there. You're just planning. And you're not lazy, not at all. You're smart. And because you're smart, you're spending all your energy analyzing the perfect time to start, or maybe comparing three different software options. We're talking about that feeling of being completely stuck in what we'll call eternal preparation. It's the curse of ambition, really. You want the result to be so perfect, so flawless, that the fear of starting imperfectly just holds you hostage. So today we are taking a deep dive into the source material you shared with us to find some practical rules, some mental frameworks to finally overcome that analysis paralysis.
That's exactly right. Our whole mission today is to dismantle that safe haven the ego builds, the one that says, I can't possibly fail if I haven't even started.
Mm.
We're going to prove why taking a messy, clumsy step today is infinitely more valuable than achieving some kind of theoretical perfection next week. We've organized this into three clear parts. First, we need a diagnosis. We have to separate what the doers are doing from what the preparers are doing. That's the motion versus action distinction. Then we'll look at a really powerful classic classroom anecdote that just proves the point perfectly. And finally, we'll finish with a prescription, a rule and a mindset shift to help you finally pull the trigger.
Okay, let's unpack that immediately. Because the difference between motion and action, I think this is the root cause of maybe 90% of stagnation.
Yeah.
On the surface, they look so similar, they both involve effort.
They do, but one yields results and the other one just keeps you warm.
Right, it just keeps you busy. So let's look closely at motion. Motion is essentially busy work that makes you feel successful, but it guarantees no real outcome. I know I'm so guilty of this.
We all are.
It's spending a week researching the absolute perfect podcast microphone. It's strategizing your email marketing flow to the nth degree. It's color-coding your to-do list.
And what's fascinating there is the psychological trap of it all. Your brain loves motion. When you're planning or strategizing, you feel engaged, you feel industrious, and that activity releases dopamine. You get a little hit of
So
satisfaction.
you think you're making progress.
You think you're producing something when in reality you haven't delivered a single thing. And the real danger of motion is that it's completely safe. You can't fail at planning.
Right, you can't get rejected while you're just researching a competitor's pricing.
Exactly. It gives the ego this perfect little bubble where you can claim I'm working so hard without ever entering the danger zone where outcomes, and therefore risks, actually exist.
I think I spent half of last year redesigning my personal website template. That was pure, unadulterated motion. It felt productive because, I was learning CSS, but it was actively preventing me from publishing the content that actually mattered.
It's a very common form of self-sabotage, and it masquerades as prudence. Now, let's compare that to action. Action is the behavior that delivers an immediate, measurable outcome.
Okay, so give me an example.
It's writing and then publishing the article, regardless of the font. It's asking for the sale, knowing full well you might hear no. It's putting on those old running shoes and just completing that first awkward mile.
And action is scary for that exact reason. Because it involves direct risk. It's where you expose yourself to criticism, to failure, or, just looking stupid. But that's also the only place where growth can happen.
That's where feedback lives. That's where success is possible. So if we synthesize this for you, the listener, the fundamental insight is this. Most people who feel stuck are operating at, say, 90% motion. They are constantly preparing for success instead of actually behaving successfully.
You're prioritizing the illusion of safety over the reality of progress.
Precisely. If you find yourself planning that perfect sequence of events before you begin, that's a red flag.
Okay, so if you need definitive proof that this motion trap is a massive hindrance, we can turn to one of the most compelling anecdotes in the source material. It's a simple classroom experiment that defines the difference between theoretical perfection and practical mastery. And here's where it gets really interesting.
This is a classic story. It comes from a film photography class at the University of Florida. The professor wanted to study the effectiveness of different grading structures, so he divided the class into two distinct groups for the whole semester.
Okay.
On one side of the room, you have the quantity group. Their final grade depended entirely on volume. On the last day of class, they had to weigh their portfolio. 100 pounds of photos got you an A, 90 pounds a B, and so on. The quality of any single photograph didn't matter at all. The goal was just to shoot, experiment, produce.
Yeah. And the other group, on the other side of the room, was the quality group. Their grade depended on one single thing, producing one solitary, nearly perfect image for the entire semester. Their entire grade rested on that single, flawless work of art.
Just think about the different dynamics that creates immediately.
The quantity group was just running around taking photos of everything. Bad lighting, clumsy compositions, developing their film constantly. They were making tons of mistakes and then learning from those mistakes in real time. They were focused purely on action.
Meanwhile, the quality group was completely immersed in motion. They were theorizing. They sat in the classroom arguing about the history of composition, studying Ansel Adams, meticulously planning lighting ratios, and waiting for the perfect subject to just appear. They were totally paralyzed by the sheer enormity of creating that one perfect shot.
So what happened?
Well, the crucial result at the end of the term was absolutely definitive. When the professor reviewed all the work, the absolute best photos, the most artistic, technically perfect, and compelling images, they came entirely from the quantity group.
Wow. That's the whole lesson right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
The quantity group, by taking 1,000 bad photos, just stumbled upon the methods for taking great ones. They developed skill and taste and technical understanding through sheer repetition.
Exactly. While the quality group was just speculating about how to achieve perfection, the quantity group was iteratively practicing and absorbing real feedback from reality. They stopped trying to prepare to be good and instead focused on just being productive. The certainty they were looking for only came after they had already done the work.
Okay, so we know the diagnosis. We're stuck in motion, waiting for certainty. Now we need the prescription. How do we stop waiting for 100% of the puzzle pieces to fit before we start building? We need a clear trigger point, and the source material offers one of the strongest frameworks I've seen for this, the 70% rule.
This is a framework that's often cited in military strategy, specifically by the Marine Corps and in high-level executive leadership. It's designed for environments where waiting is way more costly than moving.
So what's the rule exactly?
The rule is really clear. If you have 70% of the information or the resources or the certainty you believe you need, you should greenlight the decision. Proceed with the project. Go.
Now, I have to ask, because this is where the skeptical part of my brain kicks in. Doesn't the 70% rule just encourage recklessness? If I'm launching something massive or, say, building a physical structure, 70% accuracy sounds dangerously low.
That's a brilliant distinction to make, and it's a very important one. This rule applies primarily to reversible and iterative decisions, which is the vast majority of personal and professional launches. This is not for, building a bridge or performing surgery.
Right, okay.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the reason 70% is the threshold is all about speed. Waiting for 90% or 100% usually means the opportunity is gone. Someone faster has already claimed the market share, or the moment is just passed. That final 30% of information often costs 80% of the time.
So the diminishing returns are massive.
Absolutely. The extra effort is almost non-existent in its value.
So prudence beyond 70% isn't actually good management. It's usually fear hiding behind a spreadsheet. You're protecting yourself from failure at the expense of capturing momentum.
That's it. Speed, especially early on, is a far greater competitive advantage than initial accuracy. And that leads us to the crucial mental shift you have to make. You must give yourself explicit permission to be terrible at the start. You have to embrace the concept of the sloppy first draft.
I love that phrase. You need to actively reframe your internal monologue. Instead of demanding perfection from yourself, you need to say, I am not trying to be good today. I'm just trying to be done with the first version. Because the simple truth about starting is that all your initial work, it's probably going to be bad.
It will be.
The first 1,000 words are clumsy, the first workout is awkward, and the first client pitch is rough. And that's okay. That's exactly how the quantity group learned.
And it's okay because all of those problems, a bad page, a clumsy pitch, an awkward first draft, they are all fixable problems. They exist. You can edit them, you can polish them, you can even apologize for them if you need to.
But you can't fix what isn't there.
Exactly. Here's the absolute non-negotiable barrier you face when you're stuck in motion. You cannot fix a blank page. You cannot edit a video that doesn't exist. You cannot improve a habit you haven't even started. You must create the initial raw material first. The act of creation is the only prerequisite for improvement.
So let's make this actionable for you right now. The challenge for you, the listener, is to identify one single area where you have been operating at, say, 95% motion and 5% action. Maybe it's that side hustle. Maybe it's finally asking for that long overdue raise, whatever it is.
And we're challenging you to take one piece of imperfect action today.
Yes, today. We don't mean more research. We mean actual movement.
The source material gives some great practical examples of what this looks like. Post the content with the typo, you can fix it later. Send the rough draft of the email, even if you know the wording could be punchier. Go for that run in your clunky old shoes instead of waiting for the perfect expensive pair to arrive in the mail.
And here is the core psychological insight we need to close with. The fear of starting never vanishes while you are standing still.
That's right. You are waiting for motivation to arrive, but motivation only comes after activation. That fear only truly disappears once you are moving, building momentum, and seeing actual evidence of your own progress.
That is the ultimate takeaway from this deep dive. Ditch the idea of eternal preparation. Clearly distinguish safe motion from risky action. Use the 70% rule to greenlight your decisions. And please prioritize done over perfect. You already have enough information. You have enough talent. What you need now is just the activation energy to take that messy first step.
And this leads us to our final thought. The source material offers a really powerful, sobering reminder. It says, "The graveyard is full of people who had incredible potential but died waiting to be ready." You don't need more information or more time. You need to pull the trigger on the action you've been planning. Go out there and make a mess today, because it is in that initial messy output that you will find the feedback, the learning, and ultimately your success.
Stop trying to find the one perfect shot.
And be willing to take 1,000 bad ones instead. That is how mastery actually begins.